Beyond Our Borders is brought to you by KFC.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Beyond Our Borders. And this show, we're going to talk a little bit about the Philippine real estate industry. And joining us is Liz Duenas, who is a familiar face on KOAM. She is the associate broker of REMAX Diamond Realty and also the regional director of REMAX for Micronesia and the Philippines. Also joining us is her partner, Eduardo Eddie Santos of REMAX Philippines. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Thank you and good morning. Have a day.
All right.
Hey, Eddie's saying half a day and we say mabuhay.
Yeah.
Exactly. Eddie's of course coming to us from Manila, and Liz is back on Guam. Liz, let me just start with you. Explain a little bit about the company and how it's set up in the Philippines.
Okay, so we opened REMAX Philippines in 2012, and we brought in Eddie as a partner who has been a wonderful partner. Eddie's background, he had a real estate company just like we did here on Guam. So we wanted to expand the REMAX brand to the Philippines and also expand professionalism. You know how it is when you go to a foreign country or to another country, you always want to work with people you can trust. So REMAX is a brand that's global and it's a trusted name. So Eddie was the perfect person that we connected with, and he shares the same values and interests in growing the business in the Philippines. So we're really proud to have him as our partner.
Yeah, and Eddie, let me ask you a little bit about your background and how you got interested in the REMAX Philippines.
Oh, okay. Well, I've been a real estate broker the past 21 years. We brought in the REMAX brand in 2012. That was because, the industry was getting very rough and unprofessionalized. There are a lot of unlicensed agents working around. So, when the opportunity presented to me by Liz to bring in the REMAX brand, I said, hey, perfect. That would be a great opportunity for us to elevate the standards of doing real estate here in the Philippines. The Philippines has 7,100 islands, and we have over 100 million people. We're blessed with the big population. But on the other side of things, when you buy properties, oh my gosh, it's like a very harrowing experience if you don't have a good broker, a good agent to hold your hands. So we saw that in REMAX, the REMAX brand. They've been in existence since 1973, and they're found in over 110 countries. And collectively, there are about 140,000 agents spread across 8,000 offices worldwide. So it was a fantastic opportunity for us to reach the global sphere, especially in almost every inhabited country. There's a Filipino. One of the biggest exports of the Philippines is actually manpower. So we have presence in all over in every country, in every inhabited country around the world. So the REMAX brand was a perfect synergy into the real estate brokerage operations here in the Philippines.
Yeah. Before we dive deeper, Liz, into the Philippine real estate market, you guys are just coming off an annual summit, I guess. Tell us a little bit more about that. What was that about?
Well, we did a REMAX Philippines Broker Summit on Friday. And it's kind of like culminating the end of the year, and to bring together the REMAX agents and brokers to give them what our plans are for 2022, but also it's to re-inspire them because, they've been locked down for a number of times over the past 2 years. And we thought 2020 would be a little more lax. However, they were more strapped with being locked down for a longer period of time. So the real estate market there, of course, is still thriving, and Eddie can expound on that, but it hampered the agent's ability to go out and do showings, especially with the lockdowns and, the fear of the COVID spreading. But so the Broker Summit was kind of like closing out the year, bringing everybody together, rah, rah, rah. Let's talk about how do we inspire you to do better in 2022, despite the lockdown. But I've got to say, in my talk, although there were lockdowns, many of our Filipino brokers were top producers on a global scale. And some of them may have even done their best years. So Eddie can talk a bit more about that. But we're so proud of our Filipino group who consistently rank up right there with the rest of the globe in terms of top producers. So we're really proud.
Yeah, that's a pretty big accomplishment to be among top in the world, especially during the pandemic. Eddie, of course, you're here on the ground here in Manila, I suppose. Talk a little bit about the real estate industry in the Philippines. Where are we at here?
Okay, let me flash back to 2020, the first day of the pandemic. So we were actually very alarmed because during those times in March of 2020, we thought, property prices would crash or that a lot of agents within our network will have zero sales. Actually, the opposite happened. What happened was in 2020, prices continued to increase to an all-time high. To this day, as I speak to you, prices in the Philippines are at an all-time high. We also monitor the prices in Las Vegas, in Florida, in Texas, and apparently the same is true. So we're all puzzled, that instead of the market correcting, it actually scaled to greater heights. As Liz expounded, many of our agents in REMAX Philippines have done their best year ever this year. In fact, as we get the reports in the Philippine headquarters, last year we did about 13 billion in sales. That's in pesos. This year we did about 42 billion in sales. That's about $800 million collectively across the entire REMAX Philippines network. And of course, as business owners, for Liz and I, we're just all too happy that the real estate was a little bit less affected compared to our friends in the hotel industry, in the airlines, in the restaurant industry. So truly, 2020 has been a blessed year for the entire REMAX network around the world. And the government just actually increased the zonal valuations for Makati, which is actually the business capital of the Philippines. Yeah, the business capital of the Philippines. They had to adjust it. They doubled the zonal valuations, which is their basis to pay the taxes. So it's curious to see what's going to be, what business will be like in 2022. But then we're just amazed. But a lot of this money coming out during the pandemic, people are awash with cash because they buy properties left and right. So we're hopeful that 2022 will be an even better year.
Beyond Our Borders is brought to you by KFC. Beyond Our Borders is brought to you by KFC.
Yeah, Liz, that is surprising. So there must be some appetite for real estate out here in the Philippines.
Yes, well, as Eddie put it, we're at the pulse of everything across the globe because, we meet with our different regions, but it seems like the market is up. The inventory, at least in other areas, are low, just like it is here on Guam. However, the Philippines has quite a bit of inventory because it's a massive country, and the agents are definitely really busy there. But the prices, if you wanted to buy $1 million condo, you got it. And the standards in Makati and the luxury and condos are in place. So I think what we want to at least let the people of Guam know, if you're going to the Philippines, there are reliable REMAX agents that you can count on to help you with a transaction. But the gamut of prices between, let's say for a condo, between 200 to $1 million something, they do still have the inventory for that. I think the condo market for the high end is high, right, Eddie? But the low to medium type condos, they're readily available. in the Philippines. So U.S. citizens could own a condo, however, they cannot own land or buy a house. But still, the benefits of owning a condo if you're visiting. The only problem is I haven't been there in 2 years because of the lockdowns and the quarantine. So I handle the business via Zoom, which is wonderful. I mean, we're still conducting business via Zoom.
Yeah.
If there's
But
anything, if there's anything good that came out of the pandemic, is that people are more, they appreciate the countryside more. So we see more and more people buying in the countryside. So these are the growth areas of Pampanga or the Novali area, because before people just want to stay in Manila because, that's where the center is. But because, the government, I give them credit, they're able to build all these road networks, transport facilities, and then secondary airports in many different cities. So it's like it's like moving out to the countryside. And the good thing, we have a lot of kababayans in Guam. Many of
Yeah.
them are Filipino Americans, so they could earn their hard-earned money in Guam and then put it back to the Philippines. And there's a lot of properties you could purchase in the countryside. So in Cebu, in Baguio, in Palawan, in Pampanga, in Laguna, many of whom we have a REMAX presence. So if you're thinking of, looking at the countryside, we have very good value, good properties available there that you could invest. Of course, tourism is actually one major facet of the REMAX of the economy. So we have hotels, we have beaches, and we have Airbnbs that are available. Just the sky's the limit in as far as properties are available.
yeah, let me ask both of you to chime in a little bit more about Filipino Americans and also expats who may want to purchase retirement property in the Philippines. Actually, retire in the Philippines, not just a vacation place, but retirement property. How feasible is that, and is that a good idea?
Yeah, of
I
course, it will.
It
Yeah.
is. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Eddie.
the U.S. For U.S. Citizens wanting to retire in the Philippines, we see more and more of that one. The reason is they could, it's a global society. To go to the Philippines from Guam, how it's about 4 hours or 5 hours,
Three.
so it's 3 hours. So it's just like it's just like staying in traffic in Manila. So they could have the best of both worlds. They could live in Guam for 6 months, and they could live in the Philippines for 6 months. So it's the best of both worlds. Their dollar will go a long way, and of course, I might say the more challenging, the Philippines gotten more and more expensive the last 10 years. I remember Liz before saying, whenever they need items, we ask her to buy things. But now it's the other way around. If she needs something, she calls on us and to bring it to Guam. So, that's only the downside of it. It gets more and more expensive the past 10 years, but still a fantastic place to retire. You have some of the nicest and most friendly people. You have wonderful scenery. You have all these fancy restaurants across different sectors, and of course, we have a good economy that seems to be flourishing as the years go by. So it's a
Yeah, it was
wonderful
on.
place to retire.
Yeah, the Philippine economy was on a pretty good pace prior to the pandemic, but of course, as has been the case globally, the pandemic just put a big bite out of the global economy. Your thoughts, Liz?
Well, yeah, a lot of people look to the Philippines because if you want to retire, you can definitely stretch your dollar further than you could here on Guam or in the States. And a lot of people look to the medical treatment. So a lot of people go to St. Luke's or medical cities. So, I mean, I myself have gone for medical treatment. I mean, that's where I've done most of my medical procedures in the Philippines. And I know a lot of people on Guam who do that. And some find it very convenient to buy a condo so that it makes it easier for them to go back and forth. But it's so funny. Eddie's saying traffic, the air travel from here to Manila is like 3.5 hours, but Eddie has stayed in traffic for that just as much that time because traffic is horrendous in the Makati area if you're going north or south. even despite the improvement of the roads. But yes, due to the COVID, people are buying and expanding out into the provincial areas. But luckily, as Eddie put it, even when I was in Bicol, to visit my dad's place many 2-3 years ago, the roads in Bicol were beautifully done. It wasn't as modern as I thought it would be, but the rice paddies and the Mayon volcano is still so prominent, and it's not hidden by any big city in that particular area. But the roads, the improvement infrastructure is definitely there. So people are going out into the countryside and investing there. But this is the time, because if you're going to a provincial area and buying, of course, over time, that value will increase. But I've got to say, Eddie, and our team there, we've got 30 offices and over 200 agents, and our goal is to expand and grow to about 100 offices and more. And we have offices in Surigao, one of the water work capital, where they do what is that, Eddie? They do surfing there.
They do surfing. Yeah, believe it or not, we have surfing in the island of Surigao. So it's one of the most popular beaches together. It ranks alongside Palawan and Boracay as one of the nicest beaches in the Philippines, if not the world.
Beyond Our Borders is brought to you by KFC. Beyond Our Borders is brought to you by KFC.
I think that's the top spot now. It has surpassed Palawan and Boracay as the in place now for the rich and famous.
Right, but we have offices that serve Iloilo, Bacolod, Cebu. We even have an office in Cebu. So we're expanding our office, especially to areas that the infrastructure is improving and cities are growing and people are just spreading out into those areas. So at least if anyone from Guam were to go out there, they know they can count on a reputable REMAX agent in the Philippines.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're correct. I think everyone kind of focuses on the Metro Manila area, NCR, like we call it out here. But there's so much more to the Philippines, and the beautiful places like you mentioned, Bicol and Cebu and Iloilo and all these places where properties are available, right, Eddie?
Yes. There's a lot of properties available across all 7,100 islands. Actually, for REMAX, we sell everything from the cradle to the grave. So that's pre-selling properties all the way to memorial plots. So everything from the cradle to the grave.
Yeah. When we think of investment in the Philippines, like Americans, they think, because they can't own land, they can own condos, but they can't own land. We think of condos, but what about Filipino Americans? Would they be able to build a home? And how does, the American dream is owning your own home. That is the American dream. How does that compare in the Philippines? Is that the Filipino dream as well? Owning that house and lot?
Yes, we have a big backlog. And of course, the Philippines was a third world country. So many people didn't have their own homes. So as the economy flourished, and then people also started working abroad, they're able to bring in dollars here in the Philippines. So many of them are starting to buy their first homes. And insofar as Filipino Americans, if you're dual citizenship, you're dual citizen, of course you could buy land. But if you're American, you're only restricted to condominiums. So we see more and more people buying homes right now. Bear in mind, we're blessed with a population of 100 million. So to house 100 million, that would be probably, if there's 5 to a house, that's about 20 million households. And then what we also see, the younger generations, during my time, we stay with our mom and dad until we're like 35 or 40. So now we see the younger generation moving out at the age of 21, 22. And somehow it's a good thing because it teaches them independence. It teaches them to aim to buy a new home, and at the same time, they start out with a studio. Then when they get married, they probably get a 1 bedroom. Then they have two kids. They probably move on to a 2 bedroom or 3 bedroom. So there's a natural progression of owning a home here in the Philippines. The only challenge is, getting a loan here in the Philippines is very difficult. Unlike in the US, of course, mortgage are readily available. If you're a fresh grad, you build your credit towards getting your own home. Here in the Philippines, it's a little bit more stringent. The rules, they actually lend you money. They actually they actually lend money to people who actually have money. So it's very difficult. So you have to the best entry level for people acquiring a home or a condo is through pre-development prices, because you earn your equity towards the first 20%, and then once you build it up, you can take out a loan on that one.
Yeah, can you explain that a little bit more? Because people might not realize that it is, as you say, and then there's a balloon payment after the 5th or 6th year.
Yes. So this is how it works. When you buy pre-selling, because here in the Philippines, they're allowed to do pre-selling. I don't know if they allow it in the US, but then pre-selling means you put in a down payment, and then every month for the next 3 to 5 years, you pay an amortization. And then what happens in the 3rd, 4th, or 5th year is there's a balloon payment. Question, Eddie, what happens if I can't afford the balloon payment? Okay, this is what most people do. On the 3rd, 4th, and 5th year, they take out a bank loan. By then, you already had an equity built up of about 20, 30%. And the banks, most of the top 10 banks in the Philippines are accredited with the developers. And they could help you take out a loan on this one. So once you take out a loan, you can now extend the payment terms from 15, 20, 25 years. So of course, in the long run, it's more expensive, but in the short run, it's more affordable to you because you don't have too much big of a cash outlay. And the last 20 years, people who have bought properties 20 years ago, because I've been in the business since 1999, they've seen property values increase 6-folds or 6 times. So if you bought a property for about $100,000 in 1999, this same property is worth about $600,000. So the Philippines was a good place to invest in the last 20 years.
Beyond Our Borders is brought to you by KFC. Beyond Our Borders is brought to you by KFC.
Yeah, Liz, we've been talking mostly about residential property, I think, but how about on the commercial side? What's the latest there?
I mean, there's still the commercial, I think, is still on the downside because we're seeing just as we've seen here on Guam or a stateside, a lot of the businesses have downsized. So they either work out of the home. And so there's a lot of commercial property that is available, or they've canceled their leases to downsize. I mean, even our office, we had 18 to 2,000 square feet in Citibank Tower in Manila. And because we were all locked down in Manila, we were luckily, we got out of our lease and we moved into a smaller space. So that is prevalent there, just as it is in the States. So their companies are finding that they're still efficient and they're still producing with less space. So that's what we're seeing because we had to do it ourselves. Eventually that market will go up. But with lockdowns, private businesses have suffered, because of the lockdowns. But,
absolutely.
Yeah,
right.
But we do have agents that specialize strictly in commercial. And then there's the ones with jack of all trades, Eddie, that we do the whole gamut.
All right. We've only got a couple of minutes left, so I want to give you about a minute each to just kind of wrap up and tell us a little bit about your thoughts on the Philippine real estate market going forward. And let me start with you, Eddie.
Yeah, so thank you for inviting us. For our kababayans in Guam, please take a second look in the Philippines. one of the best value for money that you could aim for. Over the past 20 years, we've had good growth here in the Philippines, and real estate is still one of the very best investments you can make in your lifetime. One of the most. That's why in the Philippines they call a real estate broker a trusted financial investor, because one of the most important investment you will ever make in your lifetime is owning a real estate. So you need a very good and experienced broker to hold your hand in the complicated way we do business here in the Philippines. So to our friends in the US, in Guam, and all over the Philippines, continue to invest in real estate, because in this time and age with so many uncertainty, we have Bitcoin, we have a stock market. Still, the most sound investment is real estate. And long after you have purchased a property, you could bequeath it to your children, to your grandchildren. They won't have a hard time, because it is something that cannot be stolen away from you. So with that in mind, we do hope to see you here in the Philippines in the next few months. And if you want to buy real estate, just call REMAX Philippines or REMAX, any of our 30 offices around the country. Mabuhay in half a day.
All right, thanks, Eddie. And Liz, can you wrap it up for us?
Yes, well, my goal for the Philippines is to improve the service and give others the Filipino. I believe in that because my dad came to Guam with nothing, and he created real estate for 11 children before he died. So in the Philippines, having a REMAX office, a franchise sales is an opportunity to grow your business for you and your children, go into real estate. And then the other part is professionalism, making sure we've got people you can trust. So we want to grow our business. If anyone out there want to open in the Philippines, call me so we can make that happen.
All right, well said. Liz Duenas and Eddie Santos of REMAX Guam and Philippines. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nestor.
All right, and
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas. Merry Christmas. Maligayang Pasko to everybody.
Merry Christmas.
And I'm Nestor Licanto. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you again next month on Beyond Our Borders.
Beyond Our Borders is brought to you by KFC.